I killed more people than Scarface before kindergarten. As a kid in the 1980s, I used to attend these rituals, commonly known as satanic rituals. They're actually from a religion known as the Canaanite religion. And at these events, I would generally kill people. I killed dozens of people. Well, this is my story. My parents, they would deny all of this, what I'm going to tell you. But my mother was a hippie. My father was also a drug user. He was an engineer and a computer programmer and a robot maker. And I was his greatest robot. All the kids at these events were like robots, basically. Small wonders. So in 1985, just under the age of 2, I started going to this house in Los Angeles, this giant mansion. And in the basement of this mansion, there was a huge circle of people, hundreds of people, like 300 people, much bigger than the Eyes Wide Shut circle. And they would sacrifice kids. Next to that circle was a box, a golden box, rectangle on the ground, painted on the ground. There was a guy on the edge who was dressed like Moloch. He was buff like a WWF wrestler, covered in gold body paint. He had a huge helmet on that looked like a bullhead. And when our parents would drop us off there, our fathers, our handlers, Moloch would raise his arms up. This is the Moloch. And this is the golden box. This is where the blonde and redhead kids would sit and watch cartoons, exclusively Warner Brothers cartoons, waiting to be used for the rituals. I was in the front right quadrant. This is the red-haired girl, the back left quadrant. So the kids in the golden box were essentially child actors. And instead of calling these rituals, they were called routines. And before we went into the circle, we got a bloody handprint on our faces. Now, a busty blonde or redheaded woman, topless, with a mask, would come out with a tray full of blood. And one of the guests from the event would take their hood off. They come into the golden box, and they would dip their hand, their palm, in here, and they would put it in front of our face, like this, and press it with the middle finger parallel to the nose. That was the standard face paint. Now, the first blood hand is very common in America. You see it as the pedestrian crosswalk symbol. Does this look familiar? But there are other variations of it, like the mark of the beast, the wild animal symbol, or the reptile claw, dragged from the top down, from the forehead down. So we would get our faces painted before we went out and did our routine. And we get cleaned up and we watch cartoons again. Yeah, another one called Hugs, adult hugs. You can believe they don't give lovely hugs. They're not hugging kids at these events. Hugs are sex. This is funny. When I was a kid, this dog was humping my leg, and I'm like, he's hugging me. I have very fond memories of the red-haired girl. She was a little older than me. She was only there the first year, so it was 1985. I did my first event with her. We did wild animals, did the blood hand, and then this. And Wild Animals is like a sort of an improvised event, unlike a lot of the other ones. You're supposed to do exactly what they say. This one, you're acting like a wild animal. So there's these people in front of me. They're going like, "Grr, you're a wild animal, grr." They do the hand, and then they go, "Grr, you're a wild animal, grr, grr, grr." Right? And then I'm like on a cart of some type of thing, and I'm being pushed up to this table, like a sort of a table. It's covered in blue tarps on either side. In the middle, there's this big like trough of organs, and on the other side there's a red-haired girl, and I see her like looking at the intestines. She's kind of like touching the intestines a little bit, and but this is like a human being that they have sedated, and we're wild animals. You're supposed to improvise, but you're really encouraged to just like start kind of slow, and then you kind of work with grabbing things, touching things, then you're like, ah, you start biting, and you're, this is like a human being, is a human body, and stuff is just, you know, you can imagine how messy it gets. It's not just blood. There's all sorts of things in the human body. When I first remember this stuff, I have this intense feeling like of all the other years after the first year. Every other year, I was like missing the red hair girl. Like I was like bummed out that she wasn't there. I was just like depressed, basically, waiting for her to come back. There was a bar, but it wasn't like a bar with bottles of alcohol. It was like they had barrels of alcohol, and they were on this wagon, like an old timey wagon. And I think there were at least three barrels of booze. I think it was wine and whiskey. In front of it was a German schnitzel girl, one of those like Oktoberfest girls, like straight up German looking, like she had blonde hair, and I think she had pigtails, and like the skirt and everything. So that was strange. In the bar area, I would go to there at the end to eat the cracker, and there's these tables that go up from the ground, and they're circular, and they have like two arches. This isn't that important. It's just a little detail that I remember, and it was like these four quadrants, and these arches, I guess, keep people from messing with each other's drinks or something. But I would be sat on the table, so I was like more like adult height, and I think it kind of made me feel like I was part of the group more because I was up at the level of the eye line with the adults. Yeah, that's where I ate the cracker too. And okay, so at the end of the events, you have to eat a cracker with this stuff on it, this schmear. It tastes like blood, basically like gross blood with some spice in it. I don't know what the spice was. It was totally disgusting, and I didn't like it at all. And one year, I refused to eat it, and they had to get my dad. And he comes over to me, because he's off somewhere else. He comes over, and he goes, "They'll kill your mother," with his Boston accent. That was his go-to, and he could get me to do anything there by telling me that. "They'll kill your mother." So I ate the cracker. They had me watch a cartoon of a cat. I think it was called Pussyfoot. It was a black cat, and it was like a close-up, a full body, but close-up of it drinking, lapping milk out of a saucer. It wasn't like a real quick licking like cats do. It was like slow, like 1 second or even longer, 1.5 second per lick, 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 right? And they had me impersonate that and do that, and I had to get in the kitty position, like laying down on the ground, and I'm like almost in a little ball, licking on it, right? And then they would pick me up by my sides and put me in front of a woman's vagina and the orgies. And usually she was on her back. And I would just lick away.